Welcome everyone to the Learning to Birth webinar series, where we interview some of the world's most interesting and inspiring thought leaders about birth, pregnancy, and the postpartum. Today, we have with us Molly Modica. Welcome, Molly.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yay! Everyone, we're really blessed that Molly is with us today. Here's a little bit about her. Molly is the co-founder and vice president of B4 Village, Birth Babies, Boobs and Beyond. Molly has a vision to improve early family life from preconception through to 3 years.
Now, B4 Village offers Lamaze classes, infant massage classes, breastfeeding help, yoga, and much more. This sounds really incredible and a huge vision that you're bringing to life there. Do you want to tell us a bit about your background, Molly?
Sure. So I'm actually a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I have been practicing for about 10 years, and I mostly specialize in play therapy, and I do a lot of work with families. And over the years, it just became apparent to me in going back, looking at the child developmental history and just seeing how these early experiences impact the parent-child dyad and carry forward and connect to their struggles when they're school-aged. And so being able to go back and rework those brings a lot of relief to the family. But then it occurred to me, like, why don't we just try to prevent them from happening in the first place? And so I've started focusing earlier and earlier. And the earlier I go, the more we bring our trauma with us into pregnancy, trauma that happens during pregnancy, during birth, or in those early postpartum phases, whether it be breastfeeding trauma or trauma during the early postpartum phase, not having the support, not knowing what to do, having a medically fragile baby, all of that, it impacts us, and being able to have support and guidance through that can make a huge, profound difference in a family.
It sounds like we've got a lot of affinity between us and the Learning to Birth series because my background was actually, like, before all of this, and motherhood was human rights. And I was like, it's one thing, like, I left the space because I was like, it's one thing to go and, try and punish people for human rights breaches, but what's actually what's the drive behind this behavior, like that you would do these things to other people? And I was like, I've just got to make it my life mission to heal what I can, go back as far as I can and help people. And the Learning to Birth series is really about, playing that forward, carrying it forward, and to try and, help heal the future, help empower mums, help, make sure babies have the most beautiful entry into this world that, they deserve. So it's beautiful that you're here. Now, starting up something like B4 Village, that's a massive undertaking. I know you've got partners and a big vision. Do you want to tell us more about what that enterprise is?
Yes, so we are a 501c3 nonprofit in the United States. So so it's been the most exciting and the most terrifying thing I've ever done in my life at the same time. So my partner, Karen, is a lactation consultant, and she's actually doing an interview with you as well. And so she actually was running the hospital breastfeeding group that I went to when I was struggling to breastfeed my second, and she saved my breastfeeding relationship. And just as I was going weekly and chatting with other moms, she was like, what do you do and how do you know so much about child development? Like, the way you're talking to these moms when they're worried about something. And so we just kind of we became friends, and we realized we had this kind of shared vision. And where she was at, there was just a lot of red tape. There was not a lot of understanding for what new families needed. And they just really weren't very put together. So the universe kind of just aligned it for her and I both to be ready for the next chapter in our life at the same time. And we ventured out on this journey together. So she's the one actually that came up with the name, because she, as a lactation consultant and a childbirth educator, would always joke to people, oh, what do you do for a living? She's like, well, I do all things birth, boobs, and babies. So
it's the best, like, unique value proposition that there is out there. I think anything that includes the word boobs is gonna like be
oh my gosh, we love it so much. And I'll tell you, our real estate agent that was helping us find our space to lease was like, I don't think you want to have that on your sign. I was like, nope, how else are people going to know what we do? He's like, well, how are they going to know what you do with it or without it? And I was like, no, it's good. And afterwards we realized that he was an older white male, and he was just really uncomfortable with the word boobs on a sign. And I was like, well, that's what we want. We want people to notice us, and we want people to look us up, and even if it's for the wrong reasons. Yeah. And so many people have told us they just really feel like it's the best.
It's very embracing and welcoming, the name. I don't know if you've seen that picture of the sign going around on Facebook that I love. It's like this big sign above a street, like midwives do it in any position is what the picture is. And it's got this mama bending over, you know, she's fully clothed, you know, and then this midwife standing behind her, and, you know, it's like woman to woman. I just love how, you know, we can just be playful and like normalize these things for humor, because as you would know, being like, you know, someone who uses play in therapy, it's like the brain, like we learn way faster through play than
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Now you're a mama who's very proud of, you know, her size and how that was for you when you went into birthing. Do you want to maybe tell us like the experiences that you had around that maybe you weren't expecting?
Well, I can't say I wasn't 100% expecting it, because as a person of size, you just kind of get used to being judged wherever you are and wherever you go, ignored in a retail store, or just it subtle, nothing overt. But, I could not believe how automatically healthcare providers assumed the worst about me and my pregnancy and my birth outcomes solely based on my size. I was not allowed to birth in the birth center that was closest to me that I originally wanted to birth in because of my body mass index. And that's because, you know, there can be risks sometimes. And they don't do planned hospital births. So they want to keep their numbers great. So I had to drive an hour and a half for every appointment to be able to birth with a midwife, because that was the closest practice that would see me and do a planned hospital birth. We do have a local hospital here that is really on the cutting edge, and they have midwives on call, on staff all the time, which is really great, along with their OBs. But even with that hospital, I experienced like the high-risk OB, like just telling me I had gestational diabetes instead of asking me the question. Like walking in like, so gestational diabetes? Like, no, F you. Like, I do not have gestational diabetes. Thank you very much. So assuming that I had gestational diabetes, telling me that my baby was going to be macrosomic, which means that their head is too big or that they're too large of a baby, which is common with gestational diabetes, which I didn't have, and scheduling an induction, which my family drove down 6 hours from New England to be with me for that. And then being told, oh yeah, since there's nothing actually medically wrong with you, we won't do a scheduled induction. But then my family had already taken their vacation time to be with me, and I almost didn't have my support team with me for my birth. Things like that they assume that you're not strong. They assume that you don't eat well. They assume that you're not healthy, that you're not exercising, that you're going to have preeclampsia, and you're going to have and I didn't have any of those problems. Their need to put interventions on me because of my body size ended up impacting my birth, in that I was so anxious about this negative outcome that they told me was going to happen, that I wasn't able to relax, and my little guy had trouble descending. I ended up asking for an epidural which was a tool that helped me to relax because I was holding on to the trauma of my first birth so hard in my body. But just all of that was just so unnecessary, because instead of seeing me as a person, as an individual human being with my own story that's not like every other heavy person they've ever met, they dismissed me and devalued me as a birthing person. So I get passionate about just how we devalue birthing people in general. That all of a sudden when you're gestating, you no longer have a voice and you no longer matter to medical professionals. It's really that's a lot of what's at the root of the work that I do.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, and we'll definitely do that over the next 40 minutes together. It's just unacceptable, and it's really about them managing their risks and their insurance levels and how they're seen in their profession, and what their stats are and everything. And it's not really about the relationship with the ultimately their customer, and the relationship she has with herself or her body or her future going forward. We'll probably come back a bit to that, maybe make some advice you might have out there for other plus size mums who are really proud and happy and healthy, because we're all different bodies, lots of different women out there. We're all, we can all both get in the right circumstances if we want to. But tell us, you've brought it up now, what is birth trauma? Because maybe some of the mums here have never even had a baby yet who are listening. They don't even know what birth trauma is. And the whole idea might be a bit scary even to them. What is birth trauma?
Yeah, so I can tell you what I think most people think of when they think of birth trauma, and then I can tell you what I think of when I think of birth trauma.
Go for it.
So for so many people, at least in American culture, if birth trauma is really considered traumatic if you die or almost die, or if your baby dies or almost dies. And anything else outside of that is, well, at least you're alive, at least your baby's alive.
Yeah, be grateful, you got a baby.
Right. Now, obviously, those two outcomes are the most unspeakable and tragic of outcomes. And those maternal mortality rates are on the rise because we're not listening to the voices of our birthing people. It's unacceptable. But anytime a birthing person experiences something without their consent, something where they're feeling powerless, or something that is vastly different from their expected outcome, that can be internalized as a traumatic experience for that birthing person.
Yeah.
So the hard thing about that is that what's traumatic for me might not be traumatic for you. We have plenty of women in the US who sign up for their C-sections. They think it's great that they can pencil themselves in. It's convenient for their life. They don't consider somebody cutting into their body traumatic. It's not a big deal to them. And so they don't experience it as traumatic because it's what they're expecting. Other women have sat in my office in tears saying, what's wrong with me? How come I'm already a terrible mom before I've even given birth? What was wrong with my body that I couldn't deliver vaginally? And it's experienced as a trauma for them to have that cesarean section. And that's an unexpected C-section is just one of many examples of something that happens within the birth process that can be experienced as traumatic when you are determined to avoid that experience.
I had two very different experiences, first birth and second birth. And my first birth, I had the vision of a natural birth, and I did actually do that. But, I didn't have a strong vision of how it was going to play out. And so when I went to the hospital, when I was told to go to the hospital, I, hopped on the bed when I was told to hop on the bed. I pushed when I was told to push. All the time feeling in my body, that gut feeling like this isn't what is right for me. But I did it. And you know, afterwards it took a great deal of forgiveness, because those people telling me what to do, they were telling me what to do, what they thought was right in their professional, you know, goggles, their professional context. And I knew how to hear my body. I knew how to listen to my body, but I didn't know how to speak for my body or stand up for my body. The vast difference between that and the second birth was that I knew going in, I'm going to speak this time. And if someone tells me to do something and I don't want to do it, I say no. And the second birth, I had nothing to forgive myself over. And I only just gratitude for myself and my body and what it was capable of asking for and communicating to me. So, you know, we've said about what birth trauma is and touched a little bit on what causes birth trauma, like that lack of consent. Do you want to talk any more about what causes birth trauma?
Yeah, so I think just the active birth in general is this really out of body experience. Your body is doing things that you're not specifically telling it to do. And so just that in and of itself, it's this really weird, out of control, like detached from your body experience. And especially if you don't have any experience like with meditation or mindfulness or trying to be present in your body, it can be really unsettling and overwhelming. The body holds on to trauma. Whether it's an emotional trauma or a physical trauma, physically having somebody touch you without your consent, or, you know, being forced to stay in a position that's uncomfortable for you, that's giving you agony. An example for me was that, completely unrelated to my size, I had lost my amniotic fluid at 39 weeks, which is very risky if the baby should happen to roll over on their cord, or there's just not enough room there anymore. They've lost their cushion. Although since then I've learned that the cord actually is more spongier and hard and is not as hard to, you know, collapse as they lead you to believe. But anyways, so the deal was that as long as the baby's heartbeat was strong, I could do they would try to induce me, and I could try to go for that vaginal delivery that I really really wanted for myself. But to do that, to make sure the baby's heartbeat was strong, they had to have the baby's heartbeat on the monitor. And I have a few extra inches of body to get through before you can get that fetal Doppler to register. So the only position that they could really get the heartbeat consistently for me was excruciatingly painful. My hips were not in alignment. I probably I was supposed to go the next day to the chiropractor, but because the ultrasound was in the morning and they wouldn't let me leave the hospital. So just having to sustain that position, that really painful position. I had really bad back labor because she was sunny side up internally. And so that was really painful. So just being forced to birth, laying flat on your back and not being allowed to move throughout your labor, and go into the position that your body wants you to go into for comfort, for relief, for getting the baby to descend. You know, those experiences can all feel traumatic. Now, trauma is a range. It's that, you know, it can be a lowercase t or a capital T. So some of those tiny traumas, you know, like as you process it with other friends, as you share your story, as you process it with your provider afterwards, like, okay, it is what it is. It happened. It's over, and I can move forward. But some of those traumas linger with us and linger in our bodies, and it can be very hard to get them out.
I'm a person who really firmly believes, like, you know, don't look at the problems, look at the solutions. Always have a positive mindset. You know, speak positive self-talk, affirmations, all that sort of stuff. But the reality of the situation is that as you do all of that, other stuff is going to come up, and you kind of have to look back at your life and you know, forgive yourself and accept that reality at the same time as not saying it's going to, you know, it's not going to command my, you know, my future, my destiny. And you know, we've talked here about spectrums. We've talked here about, you know, that range of being unheard to heard, feeling powerless to, you know, knowing your true inner power. What does that spectrum mean? How, depending on where you fall on it and your experiences, what impact is that going to have, you know, in your future life, you know, after the birth?
So, I mean, I see that, you know, women who speak up for themselves and who voice their concerns and their opinions, and women who are heard by their providers, they leave their birth with an empowering experience, or in feeling healed from a previous traumatic experience. So, you know, that element of being heard and being validated throughout your birth is, I think it's crucial. It's so crucial. And we have a lot of cases in the US that have gotten a lot of public attention where the mama was not believed. And so they didn't check her, or they didn't give her the medical attention that she needed. And she hemorrhaged and lost her life because she knew something was not okay. And they said, oh, yeah, you're fine, whatever. And they didn't intervene when intervention was needed. And so, you know, not being heard can be a life or death situation. The birthing system is not built for the birthing person.
Yeah.
It is built for like, I can't think of the right word, but it's a closed system whose job it is to churn out birth and and make money.
Cookie cutter births,
Yep.
Basically, because, you know, you brought that up, you know, the birthing experience, that internal experience, it's, you know, your body is no longer in your conscious control. It's just telling you what to do and how to move. And that's, you know, that's coming from in there. Whereas the hospital experience, they're, you know, looking at you with those external eyes. If a woman is in a situation where she's not feeling heard, maybe it's just, you know, she's visiting her doctor before the birth, or even with a midwife, or she's actually in the process of birthing in hospital or post-birth, like what can she do so that she's heard, like if she's feeling unheard?
Yeah, so first of all, the first thing is that you need to believe in that inner voice that's telling you that something's not right or something's not okay. Yeah. If you have those thoughts and feelings and you don't believe them and you let them slide away, then nothing's going to happen. So believing in that feeling and trusting your own experience instead of trusting what somebody with an MD or other fancy letters after their name is telling you. If you're not being heard, having your support person, whether that be a partner or a doula or a parent, you know, having a code word or phrase that you can establish with them ahead of time, so that you know, that they know that you're serious and that they need to support you in being heard by the medical professionals. That can be really helpful as well. Just in hiring a doula and having somebody who is more educated than you are and has seen a lot of births and can help be that translator between the medical world and your own internal experience, who actually has the time to build a relationship with you and can trust your gut. What's popping up in my head right now is I'm thinking about the role of anxiety in the birthing process. both for us as the birthing person and for our partners as the person who's not having this happen to their body and who wants to have the medical team, you know, follow the medical team's advice, or for the parent who, well, oh, you know, like it wasn't that long ago where women would be knocked unconscious and they would wake up with a baby. Like that's not that long ago that was the common practice. So we have this generation of people who are supposed to be supporting us who actually don't have any experience with natural childbirth, who don't know what it's supposed to look like, because everything was dictated by a medical model who was serving the best interests of the doctor and not of the parent-child dyad. So
you've brought up some really good points.
Yes,
So
I feel like I'm all over the place.
If your body says no, or like your heart, your intuition says no, it's a no, and believe that no.
Yes.
And have a code word, which I think is great, and have people there who actually have witnessed and supported and experienced the sort of birth you're wanting, Make sure that they're there. And possibly, if you have to, exclude the people who aren't going to be.
Yeah, I think that a lot of times with family dynamics around birth, it can be really hard because like I feel obligated to have my mom there because she's my mom. And whether you have a healthy relationship or a really toxic relationship, like you feel like, you know, what are other people going to think if she's there or not there? And, you know, if I don't have my mom at my birth and my social media is not going to show that my mom was there. Like, you know, your birth has to be about you and surrounding yourself with support and peace and strength and endurance, and not, it's, you know, like you have the right to not include the people who are going to be toxic, who are going to activate your anxiety. And that can be really hard to say no and set those boundaries. But ultimately, we have to turn forward and make choices for our family of procreation as opposed to our family of origin. And this is a really crucial changing point in the family dynamic. This is the very first experience where, you know, your family of procreation matters more than where you came from. And you have to choose them over anybody else's expectations and anybody else's entitlements. And that can be really hard.
I'm active on a lot of Facebook mums groups. It's just kind of like, because I feel it's kind of our duty, you know, as mums who've been there, you know, when people are really scared and don't know things and they're asking, I try and like just be a voice of clear reason and experience, very just briefly. You know, and I've seen a lot of things, you know, just like mums saying, you know, they're in a hospital environment and, you know, they want to breastfeed their baby more often, like when the baby wants to, when they're just like given birth, you know, and the midwives, you know, won't let them or criticize them, or maybe, you know, their baby like is crying a little bit because it's like newborn, and the midwives are like demanding that they use a, you know, a dummy or something, even though they want to keep breastfeeding. So there's all these things that can happen when other people and their expectations and their life experiences, you know, and you're in such a vulnerable state, you know, physically and emotionally, you know, in that environment. And, you know, just to really know what you've said, like that if it's a no in your body, you can say that no, and you're a customer in that environment. I knew that going into my second birth. I knew I was the customer is always right.
Yeah.
So when I had a midwife who wanted to put their Doppler on me, and it was extremely painful during labor, I had to be really, really careful how I labored. I knew I couldn't push this time, because if I did, I'd been told that I couldn't have a natural birth the second time. I knew I couldn't push. I just had to let it all just happen as my body could. And what happened was that when she put the Doppler on there, my body pushed, because it was just like such that huge stimulus, having that touch on me. I was like, get that Doppler off me. And she was like, you either have that Doppler or you get out of that pool. And so I actually sent her out of the room. So you don't.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you, like, you have the right to do that. Just because you're giving birth, it does not mean that you no longer have the right to consent. Consent to treat is pretty standard medical care in the whole developed world. And so just because you're in labor doesn't mean that doctor decides when your cervix is checked. If you don't want to hand up your vagina, then you tell them to fuck off, because they have no right just because you're giving birth. No. And unfortunately, there is still a very toxic masculine culture of these male doctors who haze their underlings, and there's just this this crazy power trip in some of these medical facilities where like they have to be right. And so sometimes there is a risk, but if you and your support person and your doula and your mom are all standing there saying, you do not have the right to touch my wife right now, or you do not have the right to touch my my partner right now, you get me your superior.
Yeah.
Right?
And if you have midwives telling, that care continues. Like even if after you birth, you have midwives criticizing you for how you want to breastfeed or have a dummy or not a dummy, you can ask for it. You go to management, you say, I want a different.
Different. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just ask someone different. You do what you got to do.
Right.
What's your protocol for if someone has, in the past, like a lot of the ladies that I've talked to on this series, they've gone on the journey that they have and become the phenomenal teachers and visionaries they have because they had this first birth experience and they were like, that is not what it's meant to be. And they've taken their power back. They've taken their births back and gone on that huge transformational journey, and then wanting, they've come back with the boon at the end of the hero's journey. They want to share it. So they've gone through it and they've processed it. But what's your protocol if people have gone through this? How can we come out the other side?
Yeah. So the first and most important thing is to find yourself somebody that you can tell your birth story to, who is going to validate and normalize your experience, who's going to let you say it, and who's going to tell you, look at you and say, that was your truth and that was not okay. And to validate that for you, whether that be a licensed mental health professional, whether that be just a really good friend, having somebody who can walk through that with you in a way that's not about them and not about, oh, well, my birth was this and my birth was that, but just to walk with you through the tunnel and help you come out the other side. That is a really great start. I see a very, very huge connection between birth trauma and postpartum depression and anxiety and other mood disorders. And in really just having trouble connecting to your infant, struggling with, balancing motherhood. I don't know. Yeah. I know it's an Australian show, The Letdown. Have you seen that show?
I haven't, but
you really have to watch it because they do a really beautiful job. This mom who's really struggling with motherhood, she almost hemorrhages and dies in her delivery. And I can see it. This actress is phenomenal. I forget her name, where she is struggling so hard with motherhood, and it all boils right back down to that trauma that she's holding on to in her body. So there are things that are actually really great at helping to break through that that protective barrier that we put up emotionally for ourselves after a trauma. So things like wearing your baby, that actually having that skin to skin contact, having your baby on your body, you help each other regulate. And there's lots of really great research around how baby wearing can be helpful with postpartum mood disorders.
I'll just do a quick plug. Christine Perez's webinar is exactly on that kangaroo care and
yes,
in context. So everyone, if you want to learn more about that, watch Christine Perez's video.
Yes. So that's one thing. So I also I'm trained in something called the tummy time method, and it's developed by an occupational therapist, and it's all about social connection and helping you get down on the floor, get that eye-to-eye gaze, and try to get that connection when you're with your baby, especially when you're not feeling like it, or you've had a rough start, where maybe there's been a separation post C-section and you went hours without seeing your baby, or baby was in the NICU or put under jaundice lights, or this very specific type of therapy that I am working to develop right now, it is actually called sand tray therapy. Sand tray therapy in and of itself is not my invention. It is something that has been around for a while. It has roots with Carl Jung and him like having a sand journey on the beach. And so it's something that's very common in sand play, in play therapy that kids do. But physically selecting miniature objects that you get to hold in your hand and touch, and arranging them in a tray of sand, and being able to tell your story and have somebody witness that story with you. It has profound healing capabilities for processing trauma, and it can go very deep very quickly and really help the body to purge, because you're using your body to tell the story. And the symbols of the objects get at that emotional part of the brain instead of just the logical talking part of the brain that's telling a story. So it helps to activate the whole brain in the telling of the story, and it gets it out of the body in a way that just talking alone doesn't. I know of also like other body modalities such as massage or acupuncture or craniosacral therapy or yoga therapy. Those are all ways to actually get that muscle trauma, the muscle memory of your trauma out of your body after it's happened. So that is also can be helpful too. So it's kind of, in mindfulness and meditation, all of those practices can be helpful tools in kind of trying to put all the pieces back together.
So to spend time on yourself, honor your body. It sounds like anything that involves your body doing something pleasurable and relaxing, is going to help you release those emotions. Because it's I was like blown away to discover, like I did a bit of I think my son was 3, and I started like doing the Alexander method of learning how to relax my body. It's basically body scans. And I'm really starting to delve in deep to areas of my body where I held tension, and then find out the stories behind those that were causing that tension. I think that was something more I developed on my own. And what came up was like a whole lifetime of stories I'd held in my body in different places and tension. I remember going to yoga even after my son, he was probably 1 or 2. And there were certain positions like the butterfly with your legs. I couldn't hold it more than 5 seconds. I had to run out to the toilet not because I had to wee, which is, not that uncommon for someone who's given birth, but because I was like, I can't handle the feelings that are coming up. Like it was just like so triggering.
Absolutely. So being able to maybe do a one-on-one yoga session with, and there is something I call, called yoga therapy. I know it's someone around here trains in it, where you can be just in a one-on-one experience, so that you don't have to worry about other people, and that if you just need to cry as you open that part of your body, that you can do that. I know for me, after my first, with the trauma that went through there, I will never forget, it was like 5 o'clock in the morning, and I happened to wake up before the baby woke up, and I jumped in the shower because I knew that the warm water was going to really help me be ready to pump my breast milk out. And just the water hitting me on the back of my neck and down my back, and just breaking open the floodgates and I just sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. And the fact that I was all alone for my whole labor, and just that loneliness and I just was able to have a really good shower cry. But I will never forget that moment, that place. And I had been so disconnected from my body, and just going through the motions of like, okay, now I'm home, and now I have this baby to feed, and trying to take it like one moment at a time. And that was for me the first moment of release in a very long journey. And then I didn't really have my other release moments until I was pregnant with my second child. And being pregnant, things that I thought I had worked through the being pregnant, oh my gosh, I had so much anxiety, and it activated all of that past trauma for me that I hadn't finished working through. And I'm just so thankful for my wonderful midwife who really took the time to just be with me and talk with me some more about my experiences, and ask me what my concerns are. And yeah, she was phenomenal. So having a provider that you can trust and can talk with, and who you can feel validates you as a person and doesn't just dismiss your questions as, oh yeah, you're just some anxious mom who doesn't know what they're talking about.
Hypochondriac, troublemaker.
That is everything. And when you're in your early stages of gestation and you're looking for a provider, go in there and ask a question, something that maybe to be a little controversial. So what if I want to refuse an episiotomy?
Mm-hmm.
See how they answer. If they get flustered, if they push back, if they're like, oh, well, our policy is this, walk out the door. Yeah. Walk out the door. Because if they're not willing to listen to your concern and they're just going to spout off the policy, or this is what we normally do, in a way that doesn't give you a choice or an option, then walk away. Walk away. If that's your only choice, if you happen to live in a rural area where you have limited access to care, get a doula, educate yourself. I think that in and of itself is the most important thing. Which is why I'm such a fan of this whole webinar series. Educate yourself and make sure your support people and your partners are educating themselves as well. Yeah. Make sure they know what your choices are and why you want those choices. And make sure you're able to talk with your providers about how to use interventions, and when an intervention goes beyond I'm saying no versus this is necessary. Yeah. Just create that dialogue.
We've got a huge discussion on here actually about episiotomy, and I won't go into my experiences there right now, but you can listen, if you're listening to this, to the interview with Dr. Michael Klein, who is an amazing advocate for maternity care and responsible for dropping the episiotomy rate from 70% down to 12 in North America. So he's got a lot to say about, if you've got an obstetrician like I did, who is an advocate for episiotomy, he's got a lot to say to them and about that in his interview. Let's change track.
Absolutely. Molly. I'd love to.
We've been, talking about, birth and after birth and healing, which is like super what we need to do, because it's, I think, what does it say? Better forewarned or whatever, it's better to know this stuff can happen than not. And then you have the chance to make choices. But the other gift that you have, which is absolutely amazing and excites me, is your background, as a marriage therapist. So what is some of the common struggles that can come up for couples, after they find out that they're pregnant?
Oh, so much. So,
what doesn't come up is more likely not.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's really true. So sometimes a pregnancy is the first thing that puts a couple's relationship to the test, in terms of having to be split between what you want or actually let me reframe it so that way, so an example would be, if I'm using a cis hetero couple, would be let's say the wife finds out she's pregnant, she wants a home birth, and the husband's like, okay, well, my wife wants a home birth, but my mom says that you're going to die and we're going to kill our baby if we have a home birth. Right.
This is really common. Don't believe this doesn't happen.
Yes. So it's the very first time where there's something that people are so adamantly putting their foot down against, and it splits them right in the middle, where they have to choose between their parents, who, they know and trust and consider to be safe and wise people, versus their partner, who they love, who they're creating this new life with, and they don't know what to do. Some people's loyalty to their family of origin is way stronger than you thought it was. And that can be a huge cause of stress. I wish more couples would feel safe to go to a marriage therapist and work through these issues with a safe, neutral party, and not see therapy as something that you only do if you're about to get divorced. It gets your foundation set up for a really successful family life. Because this family loyalty is so potent, it's so strong, and it can be the driving force behind a lot of behaviors that we logically don't understand why we're doing. And it comes to that invisible loyalty we have to our family who birthed us, even if they were terrible people, and even if we know that they're terrible people, and we're like, oh yeah, you know, my father was an alcoholic, my mom was shitty, and you know, yet we still do these things that somehow are paying loyalty to them. So
I personally experienced this, like with my first children, you know, it was, everything's, you're just like your girl in your 20s, you got your career, you got your job, you're used to trusting yourself, you're used to saying what you want and being your own person. You've got this great partner, and you go out for nice dinner together and gelati, have great sex, see movies, and it's like, oh, okay, pregnant now. And then you go, okay, you think you're going to command your life in the same way you always have, and then suddenly, you know, you're the evil one because you're not doing everything the way that, you know, their mother did and their family wants and everything, and suddenly you've got all these other people in your life, you know, telling you what
that feel like they have a say when they don't get to have a voice in your family life.
And it's like, and then it's like you have to choose between your partner or yourself, and then your partner makes it clear you have to make that choice as well, or else you're a crazy, dangerous influence on your future unborn child. It's like all this stuff that a modern woman just doesn't even know is going to hit her potentially. So it can happen. So how do we prevent all that happening? How do we manage these expectations like that we have of ourselves and our partners, our relationships, before we even, you know, we find out we're pregnant or anything?
You know, that's exactly what you do, is that it's really, really, really important for couples as they're dating to really talk about family life and parenthood beyond, do you want to have kids? I think what I discover is that, you know, especially cis hetero males, like the idea of children and know that they're expected to have it, but when it boils down to it, to have no idea of what it means to be an active participant in family life, and have no desire to actively participate in an equal partnership in family
and
life.
Positively, be a positive participant.
Right. So I don't remember what Facebook article I read it in, and I need to look it up and hunt it down because I quote it so many times, but there's this really wonderful blogger mom who kind of spelled it all out of like, what do I do in a day as a mom? And she called it the invisible work of parenthood. And I love that phrase because it's not just about how many diapers or nappies you're gonna change and who changed the last poopy one and, you know, who's making dinner and who's washing the dishes. It's not about that. It is about all of the things that go into having this additional life that you're responsible for. You know, do we have enough clothing for the next size and when the winter is, and okay, what kind of pediatrician appointments do we have and when are they scheduled, and you know, like, what are we going to do about vaccinations and what are we going to do about this, and what, you know, when baby comes first, like all of that parenting stuff that we as the gestator tend to really actively dive into on the internet and read books about, that the non-birthing partner isn't as invested in that, and they just
you're gonna make decisions. Like you'll go, oh, I need clothes. Where are the best sales with the best prices? You know, and like you might even spend your own money that you earned through your job getting those things, and then suddenly your partner's like, we didn't need that. You're bad with money. You're spending all our money. You know, what are you spending? And you're like, but I've done all this research. This is what we need. You know, it's like, no.
Yeah. Yeah. I very recently, we have this really big consignment sale that just happens twice a year, and you can get clothing for like $1 or $2, per article of clothing. So I'll go and I'll spend a couple $100 and I'll have a full wardrobe for our kids for the next season and the next size. And he's like, oh, you're spending so much money. So I literally went on to Target. And I don't know, do you have Target in Australia?
Yeah, we do.
Okay. Oh, thank God. Okay. I don't know. I couldn't live without Target. And I just, 2 raincoats, 2 rain boots, and 3 sets of pajamas. That's all that I could buy. And that was more money than the entire wardrobe of, 7 pairs of pants, 7 tops, a couple sweaters for layers, like, for all of it. They have no idea, because they've barely ever had to be responsible for their own well-being. So many of our men were not socialized to have to take care of themselves, let alone anybody else. So us as modern women come into our partnerships and we are expecting equal partners, and they want to be, to their credit. They don't know what they don't know. They don't realize it. So the advice that I have for new parents is, 1, to think about what they know and what they don't know, and don't hold them accountable for knowing things that they don't know.
Yeah.
I'd say so many fights in couples in early family life come from usually the mom, expecting them to have done the reading, the research, to put things together in the way that they've been socialized and trained to do.
Yeah.
And when they can't, they assume that they must be a terrible human being, and they want to throw them out the door. So give them a break, but that also doesn't mean that it's okay for them not to actively participate in family life either. But don't be afraid to enlist the help of a professional earlier rather than later. They can help you navigate those conversations, because when we like this concept of like who I am as a dad and who I am as a mom, or whatever your chosen parenting terms are, like, we get so triggered by, having that sense of who we are challenged. Right. So when I was like, oh, you're putting the diaper on wrong, that's not just challenging his diaper skills, because maybe he is putting it on backwards, but that activates this, like, I'm a terrible father, I can't do anything, like I'm gonna, I might as well just give up. And so these early conversations can be so triggering for both parents. I think we as women tie so much of our identity as women into whether or not we're a good enough mom, and whatever standard we are setting up for ourselves. Whether that's whether we're, are we cloth diapering? Are we baby wearing? Are we, are we hand mashing organic vegetables we grew ourselves for every meal? Like, we set these crazy standards that aren't sustainable for us in some circumstances, especially if both people are working outside of the home and the baby's in care. These standards are impossible, and we're holding ourselves to these standards, and we're basing our worth and our value as a parent on things that are impossible. And that goes for our experiences during labor and delivery, as well as for early years in parenting life. So I love to talk about the concept of sustainability in parenthood. And this sand tray thing that I do, it also can be really helpful tool for problem solving, because, arguably human milk there's nothing like it for human babies. Nothing comes close. But that might not be sustainable for every family. That might not be possible, but because of, whether you have maybe polycystic ovarian syndrome or insufficient glandular tissue, or, maybe you're a post-op transgendered person who had your breast tissue removed. There are so many obstacles that can come to wanting to parent and provide breast milk and not being able to. You know, maybe your supply is low, maybe your baby has a tongue tie. We are seeing so many tethered oral tissues in our area and in our practice, because now we have doctors who are really good at diagnosing them. And maybe babies need some physical therapy and it's challenging your milk supply. And I know for me, both of my kids had tongue tie issues, and I was at the point where I was like, he was breastfeeding nonstop, he wasn't transferring enough, he was hungry, I was trying to pump and give milk, my supply was in the toilet. And, you know, Karen, who's now my business partner, she was working with me, and she's like, Molly, you're going to go crazy. She's like, if you need to give your baby a bottle of formula so you can cook dinner and eat, like, do that. Because if you are hospitalized for, a mental break, then you're not going to be able to breastfeed your baby. So if you need to, whatever you need to do that's going to be sustainable for your family, do that. Mm-hmm. Do that. And if you need somebody to walk you through that process in a non-judgmental way, find that person, whether it be your midwife or your pediatrician or your family doctor or your, a trusted friend or your friend's mom, like whoever that is, find that person and let them help you walk through that question of, is this sustainable for my family? And if the answer is no, what can I do differently?
Mm-hmm.
And
you've got to. I lived a totally different life with my second baby than my first, because my second baby, I was having her all by myself. I just knew, I knew I had to have my, oldest son, and it was only me. I just, and I was like, whereas my first child, it was all, slow cooked stews. After my second child, I was just like, gotta do what we gotta do. If it's noodles,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm going to ask you a few questions because these are common ones that come up again and again. And I just want this information here from someone as wise as yourself. So that women who do have these common questions can come here and like have that light bulb moment and know that what they're experiencing is okay. I don't know what the figures are. Every country is different, and it's probably even higher than it's reported. But I think it's something like, 50% of relationships, break up. I'm in a single mothers group on Facebook in Australia, and there's tens and tens of thousands of women on there. I know the stats in Australia, there's about 1 million single mothers, and about 250,000 of those single mothers live below the poverty line with their children. So, it's not uncommon that a mum finds herself pregnant and then the dad's like, I wanted nothing to do with this, walks out the door. What does a woman do then?
So definitely under no circumstances ever stay with somebody just because they happen to provide genetic material to your baby.
Yeah, not worth it.
It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Because you are just going to live every day of your life disappointed.
And they hold you hostage as well. They're like, well, I didn't really want to stay with you, so if I'm staying with you, you're going to do everything the way I want you to do, and that's no way.
Yeah, and that's an emotionally abusive relationship. So that's not a healthy place to for a baby to grow. It's not. So yeah, and you know what? I have to say, like, I want to bring gratitude to those men who are willing to say that, because I think even as women, there are a lot of women who don't really want to be moms and just do it because they feel like they have to do it. Like, it is okay not to have kids. It really is. It's okay just to have one. So we have this thing where like we want everybody to join the secret club, and like we want, like, I know as soon as you're dating someone, when are you getting married? As soon as you're married to somebody, when are you going to have a baby? Like, as soon as you have one, when are you going to have another? Like, it's none of your business. It is none of your business.
Yeah.
And so in terms of like staying with a partner, every country has different rules and regulations about what is okay, what is and is not okay. If you want that baby and you want to be that baby's mom, then go for it. And if your baby is going to be okay without a secondary caregiver, it's definitely going to be okay, as opposed to somebody who's around, who isn't actively engaged and involved, for that baby to spend the rest of their life wondering, why don't they love me? Because little kids they don't have the mental capacity to say, oh, well, daddy didn't really want to be a parent, so that's okay, he's trying. They always internalize it. And they say, something's wrong with me, I'm not lovable enough.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can change that, then that's an entire generation of people who are hurt and lonely, who are acting out that doesn't have to be hurting other people, whether it's hurting people on a micro level or a macro level. Hurt people. So taking away that sense of I'm not good enough, and living their life for somebody else's love and affection, we don't need that.
It's incredibly painful to watch a child grow up who has that hole in them, that they know that they have this parental figure that they love and adore, but that parental figure, for whatever reason, cannot and will not make choices to, include this child in their lives. And that child, they can't, as you said, they can't just form that rational barrier. I mean, I've witnessed it, but then I've also experienced it, not from a parent, but from grandparents. Like a grandparent who just decided when I was 6, she didn't want to have anything to do with my family anymore. And although as an adult, I could look back and go, well, it's fine. I didn't want it, better to have her out of my life than in, if she's going to cause trouble. Like as a child, that was like death, it was like death. Having this person not want to see me anymore. What did I do wrong? Why was I a bad person? And it plays out through your life. It's like, it's not worth
absolutely.
it.
Yeah. And I just lost my thought. I hope I can find it again. Nope, I think we're gonna have to move on. It'll come back to me in a minute.
It will. I hope it will. All right. So I guess if you're pregnant and your partner is not wanting to stay with you anymore or be involved, just take stock. And I would kind of recommend even like envisaging what you want your life to be 5, 10, 20 years from now. Who's in it? What is it like? And just stepping forward and create, like taking power back and creating that for yourself. And the people who are meant to be in your life and meant to be positively contributing to it, they will come. If you have to have some room at the moment in your closet for them to come, let that room be there, and they will come.
Yeah. And I think I don't know about what's going on in Australia, but I know that even with the bare minimum 1 hour, 2 hour sex ed class when you're 10 years old, that doesn't cut it to set you up for a lifelong successful sexual health journey and successful partnerships. It doesn't. That doesn't cut it. So, being willing to educate yourself and protect your fertility and in a way that works for you and your body, and to really take stock if that is something that you envision for your life. And making that really clear with people that you're dating when you're in that phase of life where you're ready for a commitment. And not just taking the do you want kids? Oh yeah, sure. But really asking open-ended questions about what do you imagine your family life looking like, and what are some of the things that you're really excited to do with your kids? And if they can't imagine that future for themselves, then that's not somebody that you want to be partnering yourself with.
That's a good point. I think asking that would make most men run, and probably that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I think another point is that if you do find yourself pregnant, I mean, lots of people do in lots of different circumstances, and then the baby daddy doesn't want to be there. It is not your fault. Do not blame yourself.
Absolutely.
And no, you can do this. There are literally, women have done it by themselves.
And listen, I can't even tell you how many moms come into my practice who feel like a single parent. And that loneliness is highlighted so much, because their partner is not being present with them in any way whatsoever. They're living the life of a single person surrounded by other people. And it's very painful. It's very painful. And babies pick up on energy. So if that energy is in your life and in your house, the babies pick up on that. You know, sometimes when you end up with more colicky babies who are harder to soothe and are more distressed when there's a lot of that negative energy around.
And toddlers play up too. They're like, they'll play up to the boundaries because they want you to come swoop in and say, no, you're okay, like everything is okay, you're safe, you know, whereas they're just like, you know, because they can feel it, and then you're already triggered, and sometimes you're just like, stop it, but no, they're just wanting to know that they're safe.
Absolutely.
I've got another question, and that is, and you brought this up a bit before, like about, you know, having your mum there and at birth or whatever, and, you know, have there who you think you want there. Actually, when that question comes up on Facebook, like, because it comes up every day, I need to see someone saying, you know, who should I have there, my mum, whatever. I just sort of say, like, have the person there that if you wouldn't feel comfortable, like, kissing your husband and being naked and being sexual with your husband in front of them, like, maybe don't have them there.
That I love that standard. That's a great standard.
Orgasm in front of them, don't invite them. But maybe that's a little harsh. But I have
no, I think that's perfect. I absolutely think that that's perfect. Yeah, because there's definitely a school of birth out there that's like how to have an orgasmic birth. And I think one of the things that we don't really have a full grasp on until after the fact, and even then, your body is connected. Your breasts and your vagina are connected.
Sure.
And yeah. And so, you know, it can be really weird sometimes for moms, like the first time where they're experiencing a letdown and they're also having uterine contractions, or when your breastfeeding toddler is twiddling your nipples because it stimulates milk production, but then it's also like really weirdly uncomfortable. Like your body is, you know, your uterus and your breasts are connected. And, you know, yeah. I love that. If you wouldn't want to have an orgasm in front of them, don't have them at your birth. I love it.
So what do you say to a partner? Like if you do have a close relationship with your mum and you want your mum there, and then your partner comes back saying, well, if your mum's there, my mum's there. What do you say to your partner?
Yeah. So I would if
you don't want your mother-in-law there, that is, yeah.
Yeah. So I would ask some questions, and I would be gentle, and I would bring love and kindness to the situation, because this is an issue of fairness, and this is an issue of support. So, you know, like, you know what, I hear you saying, like, this is how I maybe would say it, or practicing it. I hear you saying that you really want your mom there because she is a source of support and strength for you. So let's see if we can figure out a way for your mom to be available for support and strength for you, since she's your mom, in a way that also doesn't have a person that didn't change my diapers with my naked body as a live human being is tearing its way out of it.
Yeah, we might not use the word tearing.
Hopefully not tearing if you've done all of your perinatal massage.
Yeah.
Your perineal massage.
And there's lots of things you can do now, but yeah, like, because you know you're gonna be pooping, possibly.
That's the thing. Like, if you wouldn't, if like I have no desire to like drop pants and take a poop in front of my mother-in-law. So if you are comfortable with your mom being here for that, you go take a poop in front of her. I'm not. I'm not gonna. Right.
I love it.
Bringing humor into the conversation can really help relieve the tension, for sure. But also just, you know, like asking the question, like, what are your concerns about having my mom in the room? Find out what that's about. Because you might be surprised at what those concerns really are. You know, maybe it's just like, well, if your mom's there, then she's going to push me out of the way, and I'm not going to be able to be, like, she's going to undermine me, and I'm not going to matter when I want to have it, you know. And so maybe the best choice is that your mom's on call out in the waiting room in case you feel like you need her. And that way your partner can be there and be connected to you in a way that he wants to be present and connected to you. And maybe that also gives him the option to tag team, because if you're laboring for 24 hours, at some point he's going to need to go eat something. And then your mom can swap in if you're only allowed one support person into the delivery room. It's really hard to make these hard and fast plans for labor and delivery when you really don't know what's going to happen. There's no guarantee, like whether it's your first or your second or your 10th birth. You could labor for a long time or a short time. You could blow through all the stages of labor and deliver very quickly, or it could take a very, very long time. You might feel like you have the strength and support. You know, you might want your mom there. You might not want your mom there. You know, you might be really glad that you have somebody who, you know, your wife is not alone with only her medical providers, so that you can go to the bathroom, or you can go get something to eat, or you can go get a cup of coffee because you've been up for 36 straight hours. Like, you just don't know. So talk about your concerns, list them out. You know, there's a collaborative problem solving model that Dr. Green, I think, it's part of the Explosive Child book. And I love this model. It's basically just like, you know, these are all my concerns, and use the word concerns. I love that word. These are all my concerns. These are all my concerns. Is there a solution where both of our concerns can be met? And if there's not, I'm sorry, but you, as the gestating, birthing person who is going to be pushing that human being out of your body, your concerns trump anybody else's concerns.
That's beautiful. That's what it comes down to.
Right? Yeah. So if there is no way that you can find a common ground, then you win, because you're the one that has to be in a place where you're feeling safe and you're feeling relaxed. If having your mother-in-law in the room, you're not going to feel safe and relaxed, then you're going to be holding on to that baby in your body. And when we're in a state of stress, we are not sending the message that, you know, we're safe from predators, so come on out. Your body's holding that baby in. So if that person is not going to be a supportive person to you, then they should not be welcome in your delivery space.
I think that's what we all needed to hear. Like, you know, believe in that body wisdom, believe in your boundaries. You can do it. And you, if you're afraid of the consequences of sticking up for your boundaries, such as this person will abandon me, the doctors won't think I'm a good girl, whatever it is, just be willing to take that cost on board, because it's not as scary really as it might seem before you've done it. You know, there's nothing really that can happen. You're a strong woman, you're a strong mother, and you can do this.
Yeah, women have been doing this since the beginning of humanity.
Yeah. So, you know, B4 Village's got a wonderful team behind it, some great inspiration. How can the mums listening here who've learned so much, how can they follow you and be part of your vision?
Yeah, so on our website, we do have the ability for you to donate to us if you want to support our cause. We are about an hour outside of Philadelphia in Pennsylvania in the United States. So if you are within driving distance and you want to check us out, please do. Our long-term goal is to be able to offer training for other mental health professionals in this birth trauma processing through Sandtray. So, shoot us an email and let us know if you're interested, so that as soon as it's ready, we can get you on board with that. And we are on Facebook, we are on Instagram, and yeah, we're always happy to chat. I do supervision for mental health professionals. I do cyber therapy as well. So you can't do the Sandtray without having the things in person. That really is an in-person thing. But we can do distance therapy, or more particularly distance supervision for therapists who are maybe working with a lot of birthing people who want to be able to better offer support. Because I've heard a lot of stories too about people who have taken that brave step to go into therapy to either process a postpartum experience or while they're pregnant because their past traumas are being activated. And the therapist isn't really educated. They're not educated about birth. They're not educated about options, and they don't devalue. So if you are reaching out for help and you're not feeling validated and supported, move along and find another provider who's going to
trauma specialist.
Yeah.
Who has that as what they put down as what they can help with.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's been awesome talking with you, Molly. I'd like to sort of do the full circle and go back to where we kind of started and just ask you a question before we go. And
please.
And that is like, how can a plus size mother just know she is beautiful, know she is perfect to birth her baby?
Yeah. So, don't believe the lies. Don't believe the lies. Your body is just as capable as a thin body. Being overweight doesn't change the fact that you have a uterus or breasts. It doesn't. They're still there. Being overweight doesn't guarantee a failed delivery or a failed labor or a giant baby. There is an increased risk, but the body does crazy things in pregnancy and in birth, where people who aren't diabetic become diabetic for no reason, and it has nothing to do with their size.
Exactly.
Yeah. So believe in yourself, stick up for yourself, educate yourself. But I know for me, just finding that like goddess warrior like spirit and just having and holding on to that belief of like my body can do this. I can open, I can release, I can relax, I can, another like really common misconception about plus size mamas is that plus size women can't breastfeed or have a harder time breastfeeding. And there's actually no like legitimate research that backs that up, that an overweight mama can't like isn't going to produce enough milk. What it usually boils down to is the fact that an overweight mamas are bullied into C-sections, and it's the C-section and the separation from their baby and the drugs from the C-section and the delayed connection and the delayed breastfeeding that sets them off on a really bad milk supply pattern.
Correlation is not causation.
It is not. Yeah. So it actually, it has more to do with the fact that the medical system puts more interventions on them and sets them up to fail than it does that they physically can't breastfeed. Sometimes women who struggle with weight, if they have something like polycystic ovarian syndrome or like some other condition that may hormonally impact, their ability to birth or breastfeed, but go out of your way before you get there to find that endocrinologist, to have a pre-birth visit with a lactation consultant, so that you can have in our area, insurance will pay for it, where you can see a lactation consultant before you deliver, so that you can talk about different positions that are going to work with your body. Like I found I had really bad tendonitis in my thumbs from having to hold my pumps and hold my very heavy breasts. And so being able to like have somebody who told me that, oh yeah, that's a thing, and you can actually get a shot for that'll help with the pain, and you can have wrist brace at night to help you heal, and you can hold your baby this way and get physical therapy, and here you can put this washcloth under your breast, or you can get this kind of pillow, you can have this pillow to support the baby, you can, you know what I mean, like having support people to help you problem solve, and not just that message of like, oh, well, you're larger bodied, so you're probably not going to be able to breastfeed. Just having that belief and not stopping and letting somebody tell you that your size is going to prevent you from reaching your parenting and your breastfeeding goals and your birthing goals.
That's amazing. That's good. I would absolutely second that, I went into my first birth like knowing how to breastfeed, I think because I had a doula who taught me already before I even gave birth. And it just sets you up on a totally different track, just going, oh yeah, I know how to do this. I've already been shown, you know, you just, so whoever you are, if you're giving birth, like it's just about educating yourself. That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Molly, for joining us.
Thank you. This has been a pleasure.
It's been a great time. I look so forward to speaking to your colleague and going into, you know, breastfeeding and everything more with her. And but thank you everyone who's been listening, and we're going to see you very shortly at the next webinar. So thank you everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks.